yeah, share their thoughts on how, participants on this webinar can take advantage, right, of some of the
Mr.
things.
Sam, please can you a little bit increase the volume of your voice so that we can all enjoy you as you deliver this wonderful presentation. Thank you.
All right. Is this better?
Yeah, absolutely. This is better. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'll just start by running us through what the macros look like, right, for agriculture in Nigeria. So looking at it from a budgetary standpoint, right, and we don't understand that if you or if the government of any country is serious about any sector, right, that it's very important that the budgetary allocation to that particular sector is quite significant so that it can catalyze all of the activities in that sector, which would then further help the economy. So looking at Nigeria's agricultural budget, right, we saw that there was about 426.29 billion that was allocated to the sector in the year 2023. For the year 2024, the budget proposal is out, and we're, watching the National Assembly closely, right, to see what it is that they would eventually approve. But either way, when you look at it, budgetary allocation to Nigeria is still significantly low, right? There was the Malibu Declaration, which had heads of states and government commit to making sure that they had about at least 10% of budgetary allocation to the sector, right? But unfortunately, what we've seen so far is that we've been unable to meet up with that budgetary allocation. Quite understandably, considering that resources are always scarce, right? But then again, we hope to get there. We also hope to see the private sector play a lot more of a role in the sector. Mechanization is very key to the sector. And what we've seen is that in Nigeria also, because a significant portion or proportion of farmers or producers in this country are smallholder farmers, right? We say that over 80% of Nigeria's farmers are smallholder farmers, and they are responsible for, producing up about close to 90% of what is produced in the country. So we see mechanization levels also quite low, and we hope that those would go up also, right? We've seen a number of private sector participants, come into play in that space with innovative ideas around it. We've seen the likes of Hello Tractor and other people trying to commercialize, the mechanization of agriculture in Nigeria. The grain basket particularly is growing continuously. Because whether we like it or not, production numbers have increased for a lot of the commodities, right? Particularly with government trying to focus and push us from that over reliance on oil and pushing us towards agriculture because of how much it contributes to GDP and to the economy at large. So we have a grain basket that is somewhere around 30 million metric tons, right, being produced annually. Agriculture is one of the heavy contributors to employment in the country. But again, despite all of this, what we've seen is that bank credit to agriculture and financing to agriculture generally is still quite low. And again, there is this continuous claim by financial institutions that agriculture is risky. And so they shy away from financing agriculture, right? But I think part of the reasons why that has happened all these years is many of us have not looked at agriculture as a business. We see it as a way to, to survive, just to sustain our immediate needs for food, right? But if we have that understanding that agriculture is a business and can be treated as such, then, I think we would find ways to de-risk that sector, and then we'll be able to have credit flow into the sector significantly, right? So agriculture is contributing, for the past 5-10 years, agriculture has consistently contributed above 25% to GDP, right? So that shows you that the sector is very viable. For most countries, you find Nigeria is not an exception. That agriculture is one of the sectors that very quickly help to pull them out of recession in the event that they find themselves there. So just looking at some of the factors that affect commodity and commodity prices, right? There is what happens around global trade, and it has its impact on our domestic agricultural sector, right? So when there is increased trade globally, increased demand globally, what you find is that there is a significant demand for commodities, particularly those high value export crops, the likes of cocoa, ginger, sesame seed that are heavily demanded outside the country, right? The policies of all of these other global trade partners would also significantly impact the sector. So you have policies around quality, around quotas, import bans, and all of those protectionist policies that some governments do put up, right? And they significantly affect the sector. Overall, when you talk about what impacts prices of commodities, and particularly agricultural commodities, it boils down to basic, demand and supply dynamics, right? Because every other thing tends to affect demand and supply, right? So the more we produce, the more we have in supply. When that supply outweighs demand, what will happen is that prices will be low. But when the reverse is the case and demand outweighs supply, and this is what we see most of the time, right? In the Nigerian context, you find that yes, the government is making effort to increase production, but also population is growing a lot faster, right, than production rates for all of these commodities. So there is that constant demand, and that's why we see prices of commodities go up. We also, observe that there tends to be a monoseasonality for commodities in Nigeria because all of our farmers go to the farm at the same time. We have an agricultural sector that is heavily dependent on, rainfall for production, right? So the proper thing is agriculturists, farmers should depend on water for agriculture and for farming, right? But we tend to depend on rainfall rather than availability of water for our farm. So all of the farmers go to farm when there is that harvest. They harvest at the same time, and so we have a lot of supply of these commodities. That's why we hear ourselves say, "Oh, this is the season for maize. Oh, this is the season for yam. Oh, this is the season for mango," right? Because it's cheap, and it's cheap because there's a lot of supply in the market that has outweighed that demand. Which brings us to the next point, and that is an infrastructure deficit, right? That there is a significant infrastructure deficit in Nigeria, particularly when you look at storage facilities. So there are conversations and different opinions on what the absorptive capacity is for Nigeria, right? Just speaking to the amount of commodities that we can store annually, considering what our annual production of commodities is. Some people say it's 5%. Some people say, it's lower at about 2 to 3%, right? But either way, it's a far cry from where we're supposed to be. Countries like China have an absorptive capacity of over 100%, meaning that they can store over 100% of what it is that they produce on an annual basis. And then there are geopolitical events, right? And even other shock events, like we had COVID, which disrupted supply chains and, led to a significant rise in the prices of commodities. The Russia-Ukraine war, right? Because grains could not move out of, that particular region, particularly grains like maize, like wheat. We saw that global demand for all of those commodities shifted from those regions, and they went to put a lot of pressure on other regions that would typically produce this commodity, right? So these are some of the things that will drive the prices of commodities. And my next slide just shows us very quickly what a graphical representation of price movement can look like, right? And if we pay attention to this, what we see, I've highlighted just a few commodities, right? Paddy, rice, maize, soybean, and sorghum, because these are essentially staples that we consume in Nigeria. All of us are quite familiar with these particular commodities. So what you'd find is that the prices increase significantly, right? Now we can see that all of my graphs start somewhere around November, right? Because harvest for these commodities happen around September. The farmers will go through all of the post-harvest, threshing, drying, and bagging when the harmattan comes, right? So in many of the locations, I mean, I am here in Lagos, and I think it was yesterday we began to see the first sign of harmattan here in Lagos, right? But up north, where a lot of the production takes place, you find that harmattan starts, early in October, and that is when these farmers can bring out these commodities and have them dry enough to be accepted to hit the right moisture content levels that can, that will allow. So looking at the price trend, right, and the table at the bottom left, further shows us what those movements look like, so we don't struggle to read the graph. But you see that for a commodity like paddy rice, at some point in the season, paddy rice prices were as low as 286 naira per kilogram. And then you get to that point where the prices peak, usually around August, September, right? Just before the new harvest comes out again. And you see that the prices will go up significantly because there is a lot of demand in the market, but very little supply, right? And if you then, do a simple percentage change between that period where we say we have the season lowest prices and where you have the season peak prices or the season highest prices, you see that for paddy rice, that there is a significant increase, and we can see, price difference as high as 60%. For maize, it was, it was enormous. It was gigantic, right? We saw prices move from about 201 naira per kilogram of maize down to, about 500 naira per kilogram of maize, right? Representing about the 147% increase in the price of maize. For sorghum, we saw about the 69%, increase in the prices through that, period between November 2022 and August 2023, right? And then for soybean, we saw about 27%, right? And if you're looking at this and trying to understand what this means, particularly for those of us that are on this call, it means that someone that procured maize or procured sorghum or that procured paddy rice, right, at the point in time where prices were that low, this 60%, 147% translated to returns to that person, right? For someone that is an agro processor, that, his main business is, say, for example, buy maize, process it into chicken feed, and sell. What it means for this person is that if he did not buy all of the maize for his factory at 201 naira per kilogram sometime in November, right? That if he was buying maize sometime in August, that he would have bought maize, more than twice the price, at more than twice the price of maize. And that is significant cost to that particular processor, right? So that is just putting this price movement into perspective. And when you look at all of those factors that I had mentioned would affect the prices of commodities, you see that they play heavily, right, in what we saw and translated to this sort of price movement that I'm showing on the screen here. And then which then brings us to the commodity market and the ecosystem. So the ecosystem comprises of all the different players, and particularly for agri. Pardon me for being slightly biased. And when you talk of commodities, it encompasses everything that falls under the description or definition of commodities, right? You say that commodities are raw materials that have value, they can be traded, usually in their natural form, right? It means oil and gas, energy, it means solid minerals, precious metals, and agriculture, right? But because we're largely an agrarian economy, it's easy for us to just focus and then use agriculture to also drive this point home. Also, because as a commodity exchange operating in Nigeria and having a major focus, at least from inception up till now, on agriculture, right, that we can provide a lot of data and speak with some level of authority around agricultural commodities. So this is what the ecosystem looks like. You have all of the different parties, those that play in the fiscal space. If it's from a production standpoint, you're looking at the farmers, right? The traders, the merchants. When you get to post-harvest or post-production and processing, right? You talk of the agro processors, the collateral managers, the warehouse operators, the logistics vendors, those guys that own trucks and help us to move these commodities from one point to another, right? And then down to the financial side of things, where you have the insurance companies play, where you have, the financial market players coming in to see how they can let their clients, how they can let investors take advantage of the sort of opportunities and returns that are available in the sector, right? And, as far as we are concerned, the commodity exchanges sit at the heart of this, because the commodity exchange, by definition, by description, by the way it operates, is a very critical market infrastructure. In fact, the commodity exchange is the market, right? And what it does is that it provides a platform for all of these other players in the ecosystem, to play. Provides a transparent way for them to play, provides mechanism for price discovery, right? And ensuring that everybody that is a part of that ecosystem and is plugged into the commodity exchange gets value for whatever it is that they are, or whatever role it is that they are playing in the market, right? And then moving on, after talking about the commodity exchanges, I then touch on Apex very briefly, right? Which is, and Apex, where I work, is Nigeria's foremost private sector driven commodity exchange. I wouldn't dwell a lot on, going through this entire length because of time, but essentially established in 2014. We have a SEC license, which we obtained in the year 2015. And what we are, like I said, is a marketplace where all of the different ecosystem players can then come and play, right? So whether it's a farmer that has his commodities and is looking for how to sell it, or it's a processor that has its factory and is looking for commodities to buy, or, a logistic vendor that wants to move commodities, whoever it is, or even a broker that has clients that are looking for alternative assets to push their monies into, right, and get some form of return, right? The commodity exchange then provides that level of infrastructure for everybody to then play in a fair and regulated manner. So you have customers that cut across all the different, players in the ecosystem. So from the producers to your processors to the investors, right? And currently at Apex, we have commodity range that cuts across, the soft commodities such as maize, soybean, paddy rice, sorghum. Right, on the export side, you have cocoa, cashew, ginger, sesame seed, right? And then you then have, these products securitized, meaning that the same way that you can buy shares on the equities market, that you can come to the commodity exchange and you can buy commodities also in unitized form. And all of these commodities are backed by the fiscal, the actual fiscal commodities stored in one of the exchanges accredited warehouse. So you're not buying air. There is actually a transaction there. There is a buy and sell that is going on. It's backed by those fiscal commodities, right? What the commodity exchange also provides, particularly for those investors that are, somewhat risk averse, that there are fixed income type products. There are funds, similar to the, just like we have the Mabu Halal Commodities Fund, right? Wherein you as an investor can come in, be passive, and you have a professional fund manager manage your investment, and you can have, all of those sort of returns because the fund manager is knowledgeable and understands the market and is able to, play in your interest, The exchange has all of these warehouses, the warehouse infrastructure. As you can see, this is a map of Nigeria, and all of that red, right, represents areas where Apex today has storage locations. So when you're buying these contracts, there is no need to be worried about, whether or not it is backed by this commodity, because they actually are, and all of this infrastructure exists. You can go to those warehouses and you can see the actual physical commodities. And so even when a fund manager like Marble Capital creates a fund and they are procuring these assets and constituting the fund, that they actually exist and are in this warehouse, and they've also done that level of verification on it. So products on the exchange cuts across the spots, the ETCs, and the short-term CPs, which are fixed income products. And we understand some of these products on the traditional market side of things, but they also exist for commodities, right? So when, as an investor, you look at your entire portfolio right now for the purpose of diversification, that you can diversify appropriately into commodities as well, right? And this business outlook and this slide essentially tells us all of the things that support commodities as a viable asset class, right? We agree that the agricultural sector has been a major player and significant contributor to Nigeria's GDP. We also agree that, government after government, there's been strong interest in agricultural sector, right? And we see a lot of government catalyzation of that sector, either through the creation of special purpose vehicles and specialized funding to the sector, right? So it gives you an indication. Someone says that the government is the largest spender, and anywhere that the government is putting their money, then any investor, anybody that has money and is looking for return should also be focusing on that sort of sector, right? From an FX perspective, there are disruptive and innovative product offerings. There are lots of strategic industry partnerships. One is this engagement and this sort of partnership that we have with Marble Capital, right, where we provide the platform and they come in with their expertise to then create innovative products and offer them to their client base, because they understand their client, right? And then there's also the proven board and management team, at Apex, at Marble, and for all of the strategic partners that we have in the industry as well. Finally, I'll just be looking at, so this is the exchange in a nutshell, right? From a product standpoint, is looking at where we want to be in the future, where we're actively heading to, just so you have that sense of what the future looks like. That from a product standpoint, we have all of these innovative products, wherein we're not just trading the spot commodities, but we also get into more sophisticated products, ensuring that all of the different players in the ecosystem have access to finance, right? Which is funds being provided by investors, such as yourself. Or if you're a player in the ecosystem, that is funds being provided to you, right? And then on a service standpoint, from a services standpoint, is that there is some level of risk hedging through diversification, that the exchange provides that very efficient market that is regulated for you to play. And at the end of it all, right, that there's a lot of wealth creation that can go around. So participating in commodities means that the farmer that has produced it can earn some money. He can, participate in that wealth creation, right? The processor is able to save some money, is able to get good commodities to run his factory. There is profit there and he can enjoy from it. An investor that is providing the capital that is used by the ecosystem also gets some returns, and that is also wealth creation for all, right? And because, this is the final point, more or less, because it's done via a regulated exchange, that you can have that level of assurance, that level of guarantee of ethics behind it, right? Because it's a very regulated space. So you understand that, look, if Marble Capital comes and they say to you, this is a halal fund, for example, that it actually is allowed, because there is all of the regulation put in place. That if another person comes and tells you, hey, this fixed income product that you're investing in is asset backed, right? That there is actually assets backing it, right? Because it is a regulatory space. So I would, stop at this point and, just let the rest of the panel of experts also jump in and, share their views. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sam. I think, Mudathir, Sam has covered everything we need to talk about commodities market. So we should just end the webinar now. Mudathir, are you there? Thank you very much, Sam. I think we will take it from there. If there are any questions, please, you could have your hand raised, and we could, I think, the questions, if Sam needs to answer on your behalf. I think Mudathir is having a light on. Is it possible to unmute Mudathir on that end? He's having an issue. Can we unmute him? Make him host. Yeah.
I think what can you hear me now?
Yes, we can now. Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I could not mute myself. I think I'm just muted. So thank you so much, Mr. Sam. I think you've really taken us through the commodity market in a few minutes. And I believe that the audience have really grabbed one or two things. But before we move to the next presentation, which is going to be kind of a conversation between myself and Mr. Ismail, there are some questions that came up. You talked about a lot of commodities, cocoa, you talked about ginger, you talked about how can people participate? Because in two ways, we have people who are interested in participating, but the problem is they don't even know what to do. They don't know where to go to. And as also, what are the things they need to look out for? Which kind of commodity is really good to invest in this time of the year, which is the end of the year, going to the beginning of another year, in terms of your projection, looking at your projection. Then the third one is looking at if you're in the north, or you're in the south, or you're in the east, and do we have a platform where you can get and participate in in any commodity you want to participate in? Because these are the things that I believe that people are yearning to hear from you. So over to you, Mr. Sam.
All right. Thank you. Okay. And just like I tried to or I highlighted, inside of my presentation, right, that we are a market and provide that infrastructure for everybody to play and to participate, right? Every player in the market in the ecosystem has their own role and has their function, right? So I think the very simple answer that I would give to you in response to the how, right, is that for everybody on the call, speak to Mabu. Mabu is a gateway to the market, right? Because they are fund managers, brokers, and they have all of the necessary and requisite expertise, right? To then understand and further guide you as a client to say, hey, invest in maize because maize, we've carried out this level of analysis on maize, and these are the trends over time, and this is our projection of where it will go, right? Again, nobody has a crystal ball. When you look at the different commodities have their different characteristics, right? And having that expertise, being able to understand commodities or track commodities over time gives you an edge. It's why in the financial space we always advise people to go through financial advisors, right? So the domestically consumed commodities, the staples like maize, soybean, paddy rice, sorghum, they have their own benefits, they have their characteristics, like I said. One is that they are consumed generally by everybody. So there is always a lot of demand for those commodities, right? They are not impacted significantly by external factors, and I mean global factors. But then again, when you look at the commodities like cocoa, like cashew, like sesame seed, because they are largely export commodities, right? What happens is most times we see ourselves as price takers. So it is the global community that then dictates to us how much it is that we should sell our cocoa to them, right? So the different commodities, and having that expertise to then put a fine blend to these commodities is where an entity like Mabu Capital then comes into play to provide you with all of that level of guidance. So I hope that answers that question.
All right, thank you so much. I think, yes, you do. And really appreciate your time and effort in, sharing your experience in the commodity market. Thank you. So I think we'll move straight to the next session, which is going to be a conversation between myself and the head of investment of Mabu Capital, Mr. Ismail. Mr. Ismail, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Great. So I know, Mr. Sam has mentioned a lot about how people can play in the market, the kind of product that are there in, the kind of and where we can find them. He has been able to brief it, and in two ways. We know people can rather participate in the open market or come to the exchange, the commodity exchange, and participate. Now, I'm going to limit my questions into the commodity exchange because the audience are looking at, they are working elsewhere and they still want to participate in the commodity market. They cannot go to the market and buy soybeans and say, I keep it in my house and I'm looking for a buyer, all those kind of things. I cannot also do that for maize. So now this is where Mabu Capital comes in. Now, what really is your solution? What solution have you brought to people to be able to say, yes, they can rely on you to invest and get returns?
All right. Thank you very much, Mudathir. I believe that this webinar is timely, and I think we're fortunate to have had effects on the call, right? So that we understand how an exchange works and how we've been able to create securitized commodities for retail investors to take part in. Like Sam mentioned, there's been that where you find out that the way we look at the agri sector today is more of subsistence farming as opposed to looking at it as a business model, right? And if every individual wants to practice, you want to go into agri, sometimes you might find out that, well, the best you can do is maybe do it on a very small scale, because it can be capital intensive, or then you just, at the end of the day, you might just say, let me just use it to feed, let me use it to subsist myself, as opposed to creating a big business out of it. Now, with the exchange on board, right, fund managers like ourselves have now been able to create products for retail investors like you and me to say, okay, now we can invest in things like soybeans, cocoa at unitized value. And what it means unitized value is I don't need to save up 5 million naira, 10 million naira to go and set up my cocoa farm. I can have as little, I can have as little as maybe 1,000 naira, and I'll buy a basket of products that will contain maize, sorghum, soybeans, paddy rice. I could have 5,000 naira, and with that 5,000 naira, I can be on an exchange, place an investment through an exchange, and earn considerable returns. But we also note that, based on Sam's presentation, that you can notice the volatility within the agri space, which is expected. So for people that want to take advantage, it's always nice to approach your financial advisor. And that's why Marble Capital is here to say, well, you don't need to bear the risk of not understanding the markets. Let us take that burden off you. Come invest through us, right? We will offer you the opportunity to play in that space, right? We have the Marble HALAL Commodities Fund, which is the first commodities fund launched in Nigeria. Right, and it's we've just been here for about 7 months in terms of launch. We hope that in the next year or two, we'll see considerable higher performance that will reflect how good the commodity space is. So, in summary, what I would say is, for Marble Capital, in partnership and having opportunities to invest on exchanges like FX, has given us that has laid the road for individuals, retail investors, to be able to take advantage of opportunities within the agri space. This is a well-regulated space, and we are, as much as possible, ensure that we are Sharia compliant. We have a Sharia advisory team on board that ensures that those products that we're investing in have gone through thorough scrutiny to ensure that they comply with Sharia principles. So then, even if you have investors that are biased towards this investment, you can rely on the judgment of your fund manager to invest correctly for you.
Okay, I think you've really summarized, and you've been able to give us, how you've been able to, view the product you have for people to invest in. But let me be practical a little, because
Yes.
if on the call be thinking, if I have 5,000 naira, can I invest in commodities? So to say, if I have 100,000 naira, if I have 10,000 naira, and what are the kind of products I can invest my money into? So if I have, for example, let's say somebody in the market, I only have 5,000 naira to invest, or I'm a student, or I'm a what they call it, I'm a teacher, So how do you categorize that? Do you have different products, or you only have one product? So enlighten us on that to be able to know how to take decision.
Yes. So right now we are pushing our Marble HALAL Commodities Fund, but in terms of array of opportunities within the commodity space, the FX platform is an easy-to-use platform with our own guidance, right? You can invest with as little as 5,000 naira on that platform. We have also our other portfolios, right? That allows you don't have to have, we have our Marble Alpha, Beta, Gamma portfolio with as little as 10,000 naira. You can enter those portfolios. For our mutual fund, these commodities funds, you would need a minimum of 50,000 naira in multiples of 10,000 afterwards. So there is that within that space alone. We have a community management on the FX platform, which allows us to manage funds on behalf of clients, that you don't have to come face to face to us and deposit in our banks or whatever. You can make the payment in your own wallet. The app is easy to use, right? And then if you need guidance at every point in time, interaction in terms of what you need to invest in, we're able to give that. If you feel like you cannot take that direction and you want to say, okay, let me just give my funds to Marble to manage for me, then we can, for as little as 10,000 naira, you can take positions in commodities. For our mutual fund, the commodities fund, for as little as 50,000 naira, you can take positions and then multiples of 10,000 naira afterwards.
Okay, I think another thing that I'm going to ask is because when you say we can take position, I'm already thrilled that
Yes.
I can use 10,000 to invest. So instead of me buying unnecessary things, I can just invest my money into that. But how do you go about the returns? Because it's very important.
Yes.
If I'm going to invest 10,000, 100,000, how do you define the returns on this money we're actually investing?
So for commodities investment, it's important to point out that it's a market-driven investment, right? And the prices are market-driven, which means that we don't offer you a guaranteed return or say this is the amount of money you should get at so and so period. What we tell you is that based on past performance, right? If you come in at the appropriate time, right? We've had I think our best performing portfolio returned about 45% last year, right, for the season. We've had investments within the FX space too that have done 68% 2 years ago, 45, 30 something percent last year, and about 42% this year. But that is based on what we have seen in terms of historical performance. Now, moving into the future, we can use that to gauge what would happen, right? But that's not a guarantee of what would happen. And that's so the kind of transactions or investment we have within the commodity space requires us to understand that yes, it's a profitable investment space, but it's the profit that we cannot tell you this is going to be guaranteed. You have to, the longer an investor is willing to wait within the space, the higher the chances of making good returns. So if I tell you that the best time to come into, like Sam mentioned, the way we treat commodities currently is a bit monocyclical, right? That means it's affected by seasonality. So a lot of times you find out that within November to December, the prices of commodities are low. That's when you see us pushing for people to come and invest in commodities, right? But as we move into April, May of the next year, the prices begin to shoot up at that it won't be advisable for investors to say, oh, now this is the best time for me to take positions. People that have taken position before that will see their performance improve. But those that come within that window might have to exercise longer term patience to be able to really benefit from the space. So there is, in the commodity space, that would only, for every form of investment, we need to have a medium long-term perspective for investment, not short-term. Oh, can I come in and within 3 months, what can I get out of it? It doesn't work like that. So return-wise, historical have been very good returns that have outperformed other forms of investment within the capital market space, right? And that is what pushes us into the future to say, well, as long as this continues, as long as we are taking calculated risk, we should expect that performances will continue to will always match what has happened before or beat it. But at least we are not expecting losses on our transactions.
All right, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to allow people already, asking questions, and I would like to take, some questions for you, either for Mr. Sam or for you, Mr. Ismail, from the audience. I would want Aja Zainab to please kindly control the unmuting and muting of the audience now. So I would allow, before I read, I think we have some on the chat box, but let me allow Mr. Abdul Ghaffar, Mr. Buhari, sorry for, I can't see this well.
Sorry,
Mr. Buhari, please.
sorry, yeah. Sam has to join on that call, so we've permitted him to fly away, please, if you don't mind.
No problem. So far, you can handle all these questions they're going to ask you. Great. So, please kindly let Mr. Buhari unmute, and please go straight to your question, and you're welcome.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Go ahead.
Okay, good. So my question is this: how do I see? I'm trying to compare FX with NSE, Nigerian Stock Exchange, that's NGX. So how do I see? Like if I'm investing in stock, I know I can pay into a particular account, they move it to my stock account, then I trade. Now, if I want to trade FX, commodities, maybe maize, sorghum, and the likes, how do I do it? Do I go into Mabu Capital, or I can enter the market directly? That's one. I don't know if my question is straightforward.
Yeah, it is, sir. Should I answer that
Okay.
before you drop the second? Or
okay, answer that so that I can quickly run through the second one so that you don't forget.
Yeah. So like the NGX, right? Because we have stockbrokers
Yes.
taking, you can either, I think with technology these days, you can trade on your own with particular
That's true.
apps, right? FX has
That's
its Africa Exchange app, which was formerly known as COMEX, right? And you can take
Okay.
positions in that Africa Exchange app yourself if you're very conversant with how the market works, right? Because it's a relatively, that's why I think when we look at FX's contribution to the agri space, right, in comparison to other exchanges that we have, we'll notice that, okay, yes, it's relatively new, but they've been able to offer services, and we expect that within the next few years, we would have stockbrokers taking positions of that you can buy your maize position off ARM, for instance, right, as opposed to maybe coming directly to the FX's platform. But currently, they have an Africa Exchange platform that you can register straightforward. It's a mobile application on the web, and you can do your transactions there. That's why I was telling that with as little as 5,000 naira, you could go through that channel, put in your funds. It's the customer service is top notch, and it's as seamless as any other application I've seen for usage. So that's, I think, does that answer the question?
Let me say 90 or 95%. Let me just quickly ask this question. Okay,
Right.
like if I want to take a sell position now, I've purchased and I want to sell.
Yes.
So is FX acting as the intermediary? Like I use Investment One app, and if I sell any stock, I just send a mail to Investment One. Okay, credit my account. My account is already linked to the Investment One app. So they already know the account, they know the mail, so they just credit. So let's assume I'm not taking a position to sell. So is FX going to be the middleman or the intermediary that will now say that will credit my account after I've bought and I'm owed for some time?
So if on the platform, right, there is when you take positions on the platform, you already have your bank account is registered, right?
Okay.
And then there's a different account that you use for funding the wallet. But anytime you sell a position, let's say, for instance, I own 500 units of maize on the FX platform, right? I now want to sell that position, and there's a willing buyer on that platform too. The moment the buyer takes off my position, the credit goes into my wallet. I now decide if I want to withdraw that money directly into my bank account, or I want to leave it in the wallet for now. Do you understand? Or if you're now going through, if you go through fund managers like ourselves, because we are now acting as brokers on the exchange, it is basically you saying, okay, I'm giving instruction to Marble to buy me 10,000 units of maize, right? Upon my instruction to Marble sells my positions and credits my account to me. So Marble, we also have our own mobile application, right, that allows you to make such, but on our mobile app, you'll not be trading directly in maize and sorghum. You'll be trading in what positions I mean, you've negotiated with Marble to hold. Now, okay, Marble, I've given you instruction to buy 10,000 units of maize from me. I've given you instruction to sell. So Marble is now your intermediary. Do you understand?
Oh,
but on the exchange app, the intermediary is basically there is if the better word, a suspense account or a wallet account for funding transactions, right? And upon concluding or consummating those transactions, if it's liquidated, that money stays in the wallet. Do you understand? Until you just decide that, okay, I want to withdraw this cash myself. So it's like a DIY kind of thing, do it yourself application. So you don't need to send instruction to a third party like an intermediary, ARM or investment one to close the transactions for you.
Okay.
so that's
All right,
one.
thank you
Then
so
the
much.
second one.
Sorry, we need to allow other people as well to
Okay, no problem.
ask questions, because I'm sorry about that, but you can, at the end of the meeting, you can actually have the numbers of Marble Capital agents and also effects to have to engage more about this. We have already done our job by enlightening you already. Thank you. So the next person, Mr. Muhammad Taufik, please kindly unmute yourself. And please go straight to your question, clean, sharp, and direct.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Mohammed Taufik Bida from Ghana.
Nice to meet you.
Great.
Yes, sir. My question is, commodities are perishable. Okay. So I wanted to understand how the exit options are, how long one is allowed to hold a position. Because since it's related or it's benchmarked on commodities, live commodities that will be at the warehouse. So I wanted to get clarity on is there time limits to how long one could hold a position? Or what are the exit options available?
Yes. So that is the beauty of what securitized commodities has come to offer. What it basically means is it's not the entire commodities in the whole country that is maybe listed on an exchange. It's commodities that are warehoused, right? So there is that. When we are dealing with transactions, we look at it that you're dealing with warehouse receipts that gives you a claim of that portion that you own in that warehouse. So as long as that warehouse receipt is valid, I can always go into the if I want physical delivery, for instance, I can always go to claim physical delivery. What it means is that there is no particular expiration to your warehouse receipts. Do you understand? So you could hold on to a position of soybeans for as long as you want to hold on to it, because now it is that claim on the warehouse receipts that that's what you're going to lay claim on, not necessarily saying that, oh, I have put 10 bags, because you're not going to deliver 10 bags of soybeans to the warehouse, and it's that 10 bags that is marked for you. Transactions will still keep coming and going in. We are the as first level investors now, you are providing liquidity for maybe farmers to be able to supply more, and then logistics and everything. So you now have that claim that, okay, at any point in time, as long as I've not traded this position, can I lay claim to my warehouse receipt, which is yes.
Okay. Are there any restrictions in terms of the international transactions? If or that one, I'll have to speak to Marble directly.
Yes, you would have to speak to us directly, and we would look at it in terms of what's international transactions you're looking at, but there's always a possibility for anything.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think thank you so much. Do we have any other question before we?
I think maybe.
Do you have any question at the chat box?
Mr. Buhari still has a question. Yeah, I think.
Okay, Mr. Buhari, go ahead. I think I'll give you that chance.
Okay,
Because
I'll be very simple and very, very fast. So I just want to ask about
and sharp,
I think you mentioned it, but I want to
direct.
Yeah, the return. What does it look like on the average? I know it's not something you can actually say this is the return, but on the average, based on your experience, we want to count on your experience now. Thank you.
So for us, we normally would target a 15 to 20% returns annually. right? That is our goal as a fund manager, to say this is the average we expect to earn on these investments annually.
All right, I think we've been able to go through all this. Alhamdulillah, I think the audience have been able to get one or two things. And so far, you stayed to the end of this call. I believe that we've been able to expose you a little to the commodity market, because, to be honest with you, this is just scratching the surface. There's still a lot of opportunities that you can gain. And if you're a company, you can partner with Marble to trade on the commodity exchange. If you are interested in trading commodities, you can also do that as well. But all in all, don't let it don't let it end here. Try as much as possible to take action, because that is what we human, we are not good at taking action. We like procrastinating, and other people are making money, and you are there sitting down thinking, how can I make money the right way, the halal way? And here you are. So please, and don't keep it to yourself as well. Try as much as possible to spread the message. Let other people also benefit from this wonderful opportunity Marble Capital as well as FX has brought to us. Now, the last thing I'm going to actually say is because of the Sharia compliancy of these funds, Sharia compliancy of this trading, and so on and so forth. And I believe that that is why I need to reiterate that Ismail mentioned that they have a Sharia advisory board, which is their own is their advisory council of experts that looks into all funds, all processes before they do anything, before they bring out any fund, before they trade, and so on and so forth. So with that, I believe the sanctity of these wonderful transactions are being protected. That's number one. Number two, as well as you want to say that there are other investment opportunity, but this is a little bit practical. Looking at, it is what we eat every day. It is what we see in the market every day. And imagine you trade them, and it's wonderful. So I believe that you're also adding to the Nigerians, to the GDP of the country as well. So take action. And I think before we close this, I want Mr. Ismail to give a kind of a closing remark. Then I hand over to Zainab to close this session for today. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mudathir, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about commodities investment. I think for us as Muslim or Islamic conscious investors, there's an opportunity for us to be able to look at what the market is saying, right? I believe that we cannot there's a part of us that needs also to contribute to the system, right? So for Marble Capital, while we're trying to do this, is to create awareness, to let people know that regardless of our religious beliefs, right, there are investment opportunities that are available to us. It's only for us to know how to expand that space and take advantage of it, and then also be able to grow our wealth in a very ethical way. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak on this, and I hope that we have been able to win over some of you today as long-term customers. And if you want to deal in or trade in any of these investment opportunities, please feel free to contact us. I believe our business development team would be willing to provide you with all the information that you need. Thank you very, very much.
All right, Zainab, please kindly take over the wheel as we pay bye-bye to our audience today. and we thank you so much for joining. Please kindly follow our social medias at Marble Capital, at IFI Media as well, for you to get updated information about opportunities in the halal industry as well as Islamic finance industry. So don't hesitate to do that. You can also contact both companies as well to be able to lay your inquiries if you really want to know more about any of these things we've talked about. Thank you so much, and please do have a wonderful evening. Zainab, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mubakir and Mr. Ismail, and I'm thanking Sam as well in absentia. And I hope every person here has been able to learn one or two things about commodities investment. And if you have any questions that we have not been able to address here because of the timing, we would more than appreciate a call or a message from you. You can visit any of our social media platforms at Marble Capital Limited, or visit our website at www.marblecapitallllcd.com, or you can as well place a call to us. You are going to be receiving a follow-up email from us as to this webinar. If you miss any of this webinar, you can also go on any of our social media platforms to have them. And thank you very much, everyone. As like we said earlier, it's the commodities season. This is an opportunity for you to it's good for you to seize this opportunity to make an investment, let your investment grow. If you are someone, a novice in the investment business, you don't know much about investments, however, you want your business to, you want your money to work for you, it is better for you to go through a certified fund manager like Marble Capital Limited to avoid crowdfunding or scamming. So thank you very much, everyone. Please, you can as well download our mobile app. It is available on Play Store for Android users. And if you are an iPhone user or you want to make use of your laptop, you can as well visit our website to make use of the mobile app, get yourself registered and get your investment started. Thank you once again, everyone, and have a pleasant day. Thank you, Midas, sir, and you can take over now.
Thank you. Masalama.